Hi, before we start this ASMR video, I'd like to thank all these members on my Patreon for their continued support. If you're looking for any content that I create on other platforms, check the link below. Now, let's get into the video. This video is not your standard ASMR whisper voice. It's just a video where I'd like for you to follow along with my voice. I'd like for you to just follow my instructions, if you could. Can you do that for me? Great. I'll go through a variety of series of sequences, things that I'd like you to do. Nothing hard, nothing extreme. Just simple ways for you to fall asleep. Good. Just follow along with my instructions. Good. I'm glad that you're agreeing with me. Take a deep breath to start. In through the nose and out through the mouth. That wasn't too hard, was it? Good. Let's do it again. In through the nose and out through the mouth. Now that you've centered yourself, let's follow along with my instructions, okay? Good. They won't be hard. They won't be easy. They'll be about a medium. Step 1. How many fingers am I holding up? Good. Remember, follow along with my instructions. I'm holding up 3 fingers. What does that total add to? The answer is 4. If you did that simple math, let's get the next step. Today is going to be about mathematics. It won't be hard, but it's enough to preoccupy your mind to forget about the hard times that are going on in life. What was that number again? Good. 4. I'd like you to add 5 to that number. What number are we at now? Correct. We are at 9. I'd like you to add 1 more to that number. 10. Good. It's not too hard now, is it? Great. Minus 3 from that number. 3 numbers. You should end up at 7. 7 is our number that we're working with. It's lucky number 7. It's a number that many people use in all aspects of life to make themselves feel lucky. And it's just the number that we'll be using tonight as you follow my instructions on what to do with that number. I'd like you to take that number and I'd like you to times it by 2. Have you done that? Good. You should be at 14. The number 14. Good. I'd like you to times that number by 2. I'll give you a second. You should end up at number 28. I'd like you to minus 8 from that number. Good. You should end up at number 20. You still with me? Let's times that number by 2. Great. What number are you at now? 40. That's correct. 40 can be a good number or a bad number, depending on how you interpret it. Are you still following along? Good. Minus 10 from that number. 30 is your new number. I'd like you to times that number by 2. You should be ending up at the number 60. Great. Minus 50 from that number. Can you tell me what we're at now? The number 10. That is correct. With that number, I'd like you to add 90 to that number. What number should we be at now? The answer is 100. Isn't it crazy that we can add, subtract a substantial amount of numbers? And as you follow along, you'll always end up at the same number as your counterpart. That's why following my instructions is such a crucial thing to do. Now, remember that number. We'll come back to it. Good. I'd like for you to take a deep breath. Hold that breath. If you can't hold it, you can let it out by all means. But keep holding it. Let that breath out. Thank you. Let's move on to step number 2. I'd like you to take the number 50. 50. Use that number and divide it by 2. What number are you at? Good. The answer should be 25. Add it to the original number. You do remember what the original number was, right? Good. You should currently be at the number 125. Thank you. Good. I'm glad that your math is good enough that you can follow along with my instructions. Now, I'd like for you to add 75 to that number. You should have ended up at an equal 200. I'll give you a second to do the mathematics for that. Good. 200 is the number that you should be at. Let's do it again. I'd like you to take that new number that you have, divided by 2. What number are we at? That is correct. We are back at the same number that we were at before. Mathematics is different in how it makes us think and how adding simple numbers and dividing them can bring you back to square one. Are you following along with my instructions thus far? Good. Take a deep breath. Hold that breath. You can let it out. Let's take that number, 100, and let's add 100 to that number. We are now at the number 200. Good. This is where the mathematics and the following of my instructions becomes a little bit more. Take that number 200 and times it by 5. I'll give you a second. Good. You should have ended up at the number 1,000. Great. That's 1 with 3 zeros trailing it. Are you following along still? Good. Take that new number and times that number by 10. I'll give you a second. 1,000 times 10. That new number is now 10,000. Crazy how adding specific numbers, small numbers, in a series creates a larger number. The new number, 10,000. I'd like you to divide that by 100. What is that new number you're at? I'll give you a second. Good. That new number is 100. We are back at square one. Mathematics is a intriguing category in we know how to do these simple things. Again, I want to make sure that you are following along. Did you make your way back to 100? Double check. Good. We're sitting at the number 100. I'd like you to take that new number, divide that number by 4. Do you have your new number? Good. Should be 25. Did you get 25? Good. Take 25 and times that number by 100. I'll give you a second. What is that new number that you arrived at? In 3 seconds, I'd like you to tell me what that number is. 3, 2, 1. The answer is 2,500. You've done a good job so far if you're still following along. Great. Let's take that number, 2,500. I'd like you to times that number by 4. What number are you at now? That number should be 10,000. It's so simple on how our brain, when we're told to do something, does it. It just follows along. Take that 10,000 and times it by 10. What number are you at now? You should be at the number. Go ahead. 100,000. Good. Take that number and divide it by 10. Can you do the quick math? 100,000 divided by 10. The answer is 10,000. You just remove the 0. Are you still following along? Good, we are now back at the number 10,000. I'd like you to take that number, 10,000, and I'd like you to do a series of equations, but don't give me the answer yet. Take that 10,000, times it by 10, and then times it by 10, and then times it by 10. What number should you be at? The number is, say it with me, 10 million. Such simple instructions with small numbers create such vast and incredibly high numbers. We're currently sitting at the amount of 10,000, and we started with 10 million, and we started with 1. Deep breath. Give your breath and brain a second to calm themselves. Deep breath in and out. Good. We are at the number 10 million. What happens if you times that by 10 again, and then times that by 10 again? Can you follow along quickly? What number should we be at? The answer is 1 billion. A number so large, it's hard to fathom. Now, if you take 1 billion and divide it by 1 million, what number do you end up with? The answer is 10 million. I'm going to speed things up a bit here. If you have 10 million and you divide that by 1,000, what does that equal? Better yet, take 1 million and divide it by 100. Can you still follow along? The answer is 100,000. It's hard to follow along, isn't it? The bigger question here is, am I right or am I wrong? You're following my instructions and you're not asking questions along the way. The message here is, while following instructions, make sure that whatever the person is saying is right, is concrete, is foolproof. While you've been following my instructions, this entire time. I commend you for doing a fantastic job. But always make sure that you're fact checking what someone is saying. Don't take for granted what someone is saying to you at face value. I hope you've enjoyed this session of following my instructions through mathematics. And I hope that you continue to think about this when the video ends. Don't take what someone says at face value. Think about what they have said. Don't just pass over it and accept that as the answer. Take care. Have a wonderful evening, a wonderful day, a wonderful afternoon, or morning or middle of the night. And we'll see you in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.